And yet they have to be in touch with every bill that comes to Parliament. Every activity of Parliament, you have to understand it to the grain. And that takes a lot of time and reading. So I sympathize with my leaders, but thank God that they were able to come up quickly to steer Parliament to what we have today. One of the key issues which happened from the economic aspect was the DRC joining the East African community. And DRC became its 7th member, and this was on the 29th of March 2022. Now, if you look at the East African region now, you bring in Comoros and all these tiny islands, we now have a population of 473 million people, which is 5.7% of the global population. And given the wealth in DRC and the population, we now have this huge market to do trade. And so therefore, this is a clarion call to leaders to maintain peace within the region, and also at the same time for our business people to take the opportunity of the size of the market, because now the Article 5 of the East African community gives a lot of latitude to the membership to trade and have a lot of mutual benefits. And so with the non-tariff barriers removed and some of the trade protocols agreed, then we can take full advantage of what is happening within the East African region to really grow. I think from the political side, the only thing I can say is that the succession debate became alive in 2022 with the MK program or project or magic. And President Museveni had for a very long time not had succession being discussed within NRM. I was actually very surprised to see, even in Parliament and in the population there, how these young people can aggressively now start talking. He said now it's time out for the younger generation to take up. And sometimes they say, Muse, we only have a standby generator. But at a particular point, they say, no, move. It's either 2026 or nothing. So it made me to think that, is it now the time to have a discussion on succession?
Why not?
What form should it take? Did it have to wait for MK to light the discussion? Is that the best way to do it? So I think that one, from a political angle, puts everything at the forefront for discussion. And then I can say, finally, the recent visit by the President to the United States is something that people should note carefully. I think it brought in a thawing of relationship between the President and the American political system. If you remember from the days of Barack Obama, they used to move around us. Obama came, stopped in Kenya, I think later on, and Tanzania, Egypt, Ghana, South Africa. They kept us, and our president was not invited to this African leaders forum for a while. And it's a signal to the opposition that they haven't done a good job yet, because I think the Americans have begun to look at the president and said, if you have trouble in Somalia or trouble in DRC in terms of regional strategic security, the man of call is President Museveni. That's my reading. And given the recent events which has been taking place in DRC, we had issues in South Sudan. President Museveni was at the forefront of really breaking up that slavery from the north and creating in the South Sudan, the UPDF were a key element there. Same thing in Somalia to create peace there. Now, the Americans tried to promote, and this is a fact, the position elements within Uganda for a while. I don't think they were successful in terms of really demonstrating leadership, because if you I can say here now that if you would want to replace President Museveni, there is more to, for example, slogans like removing a dictator, slogans like it's time for the young people. You need more. You need more. You need maturity. You need to be firm with ideology. You need to understand your foreign policy. You need to understand a lot of economics. And most importantly, you must have policy issues that you can rally the country around. So that's my take in terms of the recent visit by the president to the United States. It's telling it from a political angle, and it's a message to Ugandans here that this old man we thought was now down and out, has expired. That old man is still being trusted in the power centers of the U.S. Yeah. So if I was in opposition, I would be thinking now, how do we really begin to reconfigure and build?
Not just sloganeering.
No, sloganeering does not work.
Time for you.
Time for you to go. Now you leave. How then? If I go,
what's next?
What's next? What policies do you have to put in place?
Good, but I also like your ambition, saying that you need to have this, the other, to replace the man. Is it that easy with our young people? You know?
the young,
it's something you can think about, as we shall be coming in the discussion. We shall also have way forward. It's something you can think about throwing in the way forward discussion. We were joined by General Felix Kulaije, and I need to introduce you to the people that you are here, and that you are joining us to discuss the year in review. And but you first do the listening, as your colleagues here throw in theirs, and then I will come to you. You also have a plateful, you know, to do with security issues and how they panned out, what we are going to see in the next few days to come. But Dr. Fred Muhumuza, your take.
Yeah, thank you, and good evening, our viewers out there again. My take is, of course, we are still having peace and security. People will call it relative, depending on where one is. But at least we can still sit here and discuss. Coming up here, thank you, UBC. I saw the heads of the previous leaders down there, and for some of us who have been around for some time, we know what it means to be seated here, going towards midnight, and you're still confident that you can stay around here.
With a uniform.
But also knowing that all coups used to capture this place.
Yes.
Don't forget that
you had to first come here.
The announcements will be made
so
here.
Like if they wanted to do it now,
this is
they must come and talk to me nicely.
The appearance of a uniform in the studio.
So that history,
Change of government.
that history gives us to say, well, we have really made some progress.
Some people would say, Fred, 35, 37 years down the road, don't scare us.
No, it's not as that's why I'm saying we can recover and remember that we are seated right at the place where every military uniform would target to announce I've changed government. Now they are discussing a change of government in another format, which is also progress that we have made. But also looking in front of me here that our viewers may not see there, but I'm sure it's live in their memory, the World Cup. For some of us that has made some good things. It is a time we looked forward to. Now we're looking forward to 2026. We should be there to watch that. It came and ended well. There were a lot of discussions. This is Qatar. We've never had it there. And this is the first time it happened really towards the end of the year because of the weather. To show you really how the world adapts to different things. You can achieve so much if you're adaptive, like the football, the beautiful game. Again, as we raise the issue, to know that the UNEB exams ended well after the 2 years of COVID. To have children go through the whole schooling and sit the exams in the cycle, I mean the education sector, so I don't take those things for granted, that children could sit the exams and finish them. But one most importantly for me were 2023, the children who had missed their exams because the director of studies really undermined their ability to go and sit the exams. And the system, cutters of the media, was able to respond and allow those children sit exams. And I know there are many others who still fail to sit the exam. That begins to speak to the negatives in our systems that we need to bring up and allow households to be resilient and really engage the tough times of the day without throwing them extra burdens. Now you can imagine if these children, the ministry had not been kind enough to allow them sit exams, they would have a year lost, tuition has been lost, and a lot of many things to add to their challenges. The negative side, of course, we have had quite a number of challenges. This is a year people have said inflation showed its glaring head again, exposing our vulnerabilities. I don't want to hear people say the whole world is like that. No, some of us who have gone through hardships, you don't go by what the whole world is. You run your own race. You should be able to manage, and I think Uganda has had its own tough times. We had famine in this country, in Karamoja, and people are still dilly-dallying around. We need tractors, we need to irrigate, and I'm like, these are really bad perceptions of what the real issues are for the country. So we have quite a number of economic issues coming up. I cannot forget the year began, we're almost getting there, making 1 year when we lost Professor Mutevire. To some of us, he was a personal friend, he was a mentor, he was many other things. People look at him from different angles. And of course, we have lost many other people as well. The speaker they talked about, and many others. But we have persevered to come to the end of the year, and that's something to look forward to say, how can we make it better? How can we make sure we resolve the issues we are crossing the year with? Some of them are of a social nature, some of them are of economic nature, others are political. We still have people who have not been able to celebrate the days with their loved ones for one reason or another, really for avoidable reasons. Talking about the war in Ukraine, I liked the Pope's message. He said this could have been prevented, or at least we shouldn't. It was thrown at the people. And when I see the Ukrainians who are in the UK having celebrations there for Christmas, they ought to be in their homes. But there are very many other people in Uganda who find themselves in those similar situations, and also in the region. It's my prayer that the DRC's joining of the East African community would actually give us the benefits. But every time I hear, and I'm like, okay, we are still so far away from economic unions, because I wouldn't expect the European Union member to be fighting another European Union member. These are benefits, low-hanging fruits that we can easily pick, but we are unable to because of one reason or another. And those are the shocks that make us really vulnerable as a country, as an economy, and we need to see how do we deal with these issues. Thank you.
Okay, good. You referred to some of the persons we lost. You talked about Governor Mutevile. And then you talked, Honorable Mara talked about Honorable Lanya. But we also lost the Right Honorable Kawanga Paul Semugerere recently, just a month ago. And then of course, we lost also the big soldier, General Eli Tumwine. So quite some heavy shoulders went flat. Yeah, it's also important to talk about those. And I think 2022 really took some big hit on some senior
and of course
citizens.
the accidents have taken quite a number of people.
The Queen, yes. Thank God she had lived her full life when you compare to people like really Olanya at just 50 plus. But death is death and still sad. Council Sarah Birete, your take.
Well, I will start with the good side. The full reopening of the economy, the reopening of schools after spending 2 years with our children at home, the scourge of teenage pregnancies that resulted out of that. So it was a big relief for the schools to reopen, and the economy. We had sectors that were under lockdown for 2 years, especially the entertainment sector, the bars, the public entertainment, and all the other related businesses that employ most of the people, especially the young people, where they suffered really under that COVID lockdown, and it was a big relief to have them reopen. On the reopening of schools, it was unfortunate that some schools were auctioned, and they, as government and as leaders, were unable to respond to people who offer a private service for the common good of society. I think really that was unfortunate. The second good thing for me is the Parliament's action to push back on the Pineti coffee agreement. And that, first of all, we saw Parliament in big numbers.
Is it a one battle? Can they celebrate?
Citizens celebrated, especially the coffee farmers. They did celebrate.
I hope it is not a temporary celebration.
Again, then it will be up to the leaders of Parliament and whether they mean what they say. But as of now, let's celebrate them. They stood with the people. They listened to the voices, wishes, and aspirations of the people, and were able to save the coffee farmers, as well as save the local, the whole element of local citizen productivity that we need to look into going forward if we are to revive the economy. Because if you look at the big chunk of our budget support, the current budget of 47.8.
46.
The current budget?
Yes.
48.1 trillion.
The current one.
Yes, 48.1 trillion. We are only able to contribute 21 trillion in the local revenue.
Our local revenue, tax and non-tax revenue are 25 trillion.
25 trillion.
Yeah,
so you have the other chunk of 23 trillion to look for in loans and increasing, skyrocketing public debt.
Yeah.
So if we do not make the people productive to be able to generate enough revenue to cover our budgets, we have even seen for the first time in my adult life, it is the first time to see government failing to pay salaries for people that serve. Government that serve the public. And we cannot pay their salaries, including December, which is,
So far we are funding 51.9% of our budget.
Which is good. But why are we not paying salaries?
48.1.
Including December,
Borrowed.
many districts are unable to pay salaries for the festive season. Why are we not paying people that serve the public? So to me, that saving the economy, saving the productivity of the people is more critical now, and they need to increase the productivity of the citizenry to be able to fund our budget, to fund our expenses as a nation is more critical, especially given that our debt ratio is now at 52% of our GDP. So we are above the red flag of 50%.
Not yet. The charter is 53.1%.
I'm saying the international...
Why don't you stick to the legal issues that you
No, yeah, but they...
No. Please let her make up.
Yeah, I think...
The charter seems to be moving.
The charter is above the recommended international borrowing rate is 50%.
Which we had adopted ourselves anyway.
Yes.
We adopted the charter.
Yes.
But the charter is a moving target now.
Yeah, charter is 53.1.
Yes.
So when you look at that, so my third good issue is the defeat of Ebola. Although Afande Kraije wants to limit me to legal issues. So the defeat of Ebola is good news for Ugandans. I traveled 3 times during Ebola, going to Nairobi, and we would be caged at the airport as the passengers from Entebbe. going to use the emergency airport that Kenya had put up at the time they got the fire outbreak at the airport. It wasn't good, but also to be able to save lives of the citizens. It was something good that happened this year. On the downside, I will start with the unfortunate death of the governor. May he rest in peace. But for me, the downside bit beyond the passing of a very renowned economist is the failure to constitute the Bank of Uganda leadership as envisaged in Article 161 and 62 of the Constitution. The two articles talk of the leadership of the central bank to be both the governor and deputy governor, who act as chairpersons and vice chairpersons of the board of the central bank, but also the functions of the governor in Article 162 and the deputy governor are not delegated, and there is no space for anybody to act in a vacuum or absence of the other. And legally speaking, strictly legal speaking, some of the decisions of the bank could be put to question at the time when we have a big need for a firm central bank to be able to control the monetary policy of the country amidst inflation. So you have a country that cannot replace a governor for 1 year. 1 year. Under common law practice, a person can only act to between 1 to 6 months. So even the decisions anybody has taken beyond June, July at the central bank could be put to question in terms of constitution of the central bank. We have a precedent, twofold precedent. One is that the highest office in the land, the office of the president, and which needs a lot of resources and all adult citizen involvement, can only be replaced within 6 months. So in the absence of the president, the vice president can only act for 6 months. And there is a big duty for a country to go through a general election to be able to replace the highest office in the land. So that sets a pace through which people who head constitutional organs can act. But beyond that, we have a constitutional precedent where we had no Inspector General of Government and we had 2 substantive deputies. But the Constitutional Court held that the IGG was not fully constituted to prosecute people. So using the same parameters, the decisions now taken by Bank of Uganda can be put to question because that entity is not constituted, fully constituted, beyond 6 months. And the failure can be twofold. It brings also to question the competence of the appointing authority, because the only person that can appoint a governor is a president. So is our president becoming less vigilant for the office? Or what is the problem? Or are we lacking Ugandans qualified to fill the position of a governor?
Or do we have very good deputies who are...
But the Constitution does not provide for acting,
for
anybody to act as a governor.
I'm just thinking.
And the two must be present, a governor and a deputy.
True.
So when the second downside event for me is the human rights situation, the continuing abductions, the continuing torture, the continuing detentions without trial happening in this country, especially to the opposition supporters, are very unfortunate. In my adult life, I had heard of 3 entities that abduct people. These 3 entities, one was the Lord's Resistance Army, LRA, as a rebel group. It would abduct Ugandans, cut off people's mouth, mouth, and it caused a lot of terror in this country for 20 years. The second entity that I've known in my adult life is Al-Shabaab, which is a known terror group that abducts people. The third entity is also a terror group, Boko Haram, that abducts people. It's unfortunate for me to see abductions happening in this country for 2 consecutive years with no action, with no responsibility, a failure of government to protect its people and their property. And unfortunately, the suspected agencies that abduct people are state agencies whose salaries come from the people they are abducting. So this is the 4th entity in my life to hear about that abducts people. Very unfortunate happening in our country, and I hope that the security agencies who are blamed for abducting citizens in this country will be held responsible, but will also stop abducting people. It's very shameful, and I hope that everybody gets equally embarrassed with actions of abductions of citizens in this country. I will conclude with one international incident of...
Afande Kulaije, you were looking the other side when Sarah was talking about this. She kept looking at you.
Yes, because he represents the security agencies.
I will come back to you straight away after she has ended.
He was reading his notes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So the last incident I will end with, which is both negative and positive in my view as a governance sector, is the leadership question in Britain, where Britain has had 5 prime ministers in 6 years.
Yeah.
With the shortest serving prime minister in Britain's history, Liz Truss, who led for 44 days. Why I say it's both negative and positive, of course that rate of turnover is negative, but the positive element is the importance of institutions in a democracy. Institutions in Britain were able to prove that even with instability at the leadership level, the institutions are strong enough to hold the country forward and be able to create stability for leadership. So I will stop at those.
Thank you. General Kulaije is in the house, and as you can expect from where Sarah left, Sarah is talking about suspected state agencies abducting people. General, you may start from that. But over and above that, I would also, people are sending messages, and there is someone already who says, you can also ask General Kulaije what the UPDF has done with its officer who have used their guns in the wrong way. Giving an example of Sergeant Abdul Sali shooting and killing a border man on the 26th of November. He was taken to court. Was he charged? And then Major Alpha Okui, arrested for the shooting and the disabling of a traffic officer, Mukebezi, was Okui charged. And then also, can Afande Kulaije tell us, the police flying squad arrested an ADF leader who is alleged to be the head of the gang that was attacking police stations. Is the UPDF interested in him? I know that you had prepared yourself to give us a lowdown of some of the things you thought were interesting or high-end that we need to discuss for 2022, but you can add some of this on your plate, Afande. You're most welcome.
Thank you, Charles. Good evening, panelists, good evening, viewers. I particularly love the team I found in the studio. I have enormous respect for Honorable Babu. Of recent, I had a chance to interact with Honorable Omara, and I found him a very informed human being. No wonder he's exuding economic issues here, as if he's in a class of economics every day.
Thank you, Afande.
And of course, Dr. Mhumuza, my old friend, we interact quite closely. And the old panelist, Sarah. whom I was teasing about sticking to the good issues. It was deliberate. I was just shaking her platform. The year, in my view, started with a bit of a sad note with the death of Jacob, a personal friend right from university days.
Although I knew you guys.
Yes, although I was ahead of him.
I followed you guys a lot.
We were very close. In fact, in his book, which is yet to be published, I am mentioned.
Yeah.
So I just don't know where the book is. Otherwise, we should be able to support it and it comes out so that people can read his memoirs. So the year saw the fall of quite heavyweights. And allow me comment about Professor Thomasio Mutebile. One may talk about the governorship easily, but I can assure you, replacing a giant of a man like Mutebile is not something you rush to. There is a book by entitled The World Banker, which is writing about the tenure of James Wolfson as president of the World Bank. There's a whole chapter committed to Muslim Mutebile in that book. Something I need to cite for Ugandans to remember that may have passed us without knowing, but was of a world standard. It's the Mutebile who brought the Paris Club to Kampala in 1995 for the first time. He urged the bank, you are discussing us. Why are you discussing us from Paris? Come home and we discuss these things. And so for the first time, the Donors Club was lifted from Paris to the recipient country, courtesy of Mutebile. That's how tough the guy was. So he also went. We have lost other people. I particularly want to send my condolences to Honorable Okabe's family. Okabe were together in 10th Parliament. An accomplished gentleman. A man you will not find opening his mouth unless he knows what he's talking about. And it's a rare virtue in this country now. So when you find such individuals, you really respect them. May his soul and that of his wife rest in peace. Now back to where you pushed me. We began the year with some challenges, of course, especially in Karamoja. The raids had hyped up from theft to almost raids. And then we had launched an operation in Congo called Shuja to deal with the ADF that had built capacity to begin disturbing us here at Parliament Avenue and the CPS. And the recent developments you have seen in Matuga and the Nyendo Masaka show you that the ADF cells are active in this country. And therefore, some of the activities we have done, which takes me to the word abduction. I wanted to put it succinctly. The state cannot abduct its own people. The state arrests. The methodology of arrest, however, will differ according to what the suspect is. Now, like this man who had 7 SMGs in his house, a PK machine gun with 2 chains, an already made bomb, which you suspect was to be used on Christmas Day, and another one being prepared. You don't go the police style. You are under arrest. Some methodology has to be used to suppress that man. So, I would wish to correct this. I know people call it abduction for purposes of easy English and the politics, but there are methods of arrest that you do for terror suspects that you don't use for robbery suspects, for any other crime. I thought I should make that dichotomy in these phrases we are using. Now, security-wise, the country has been improving over time since the beginning over there. Karamoja, we plugged the gaps, and the cattle thefts greatly went down. Even the famine that people are talking about, which was a matter of concern, has been dealt with, and Karamoja is not in crisis anymore, thanks to Prime Minister's office and other agencies that work together on this matter. 3, something else that we do not talk about, the production of food in this country has grown up. Minister of, and for us in security, that's a very important factor. Food security is a matter that we consider very seriously. And when you bring in the nexus between development and security, you must address the question of production and productivity. I must inform the country, Minister of Agriculture had sounded an early warning that we were likely to have famine. The head of state took a very drastic decision to order those who had the land to produce prisons, UPDF, NEC, and we are going to have a bumper harvest of maize thanks to that effort. And of course, God is blessing that the rains have gone beyond what we were anticipating. When we visited Kata in Buramburi, I thought that area was going to be in trouble because the maize was very young. But God has been gracious, rain has continued. We may, however, pray that it stops now so that the harvests are not affected. So security-wise, the entire country is at peace. Our neighborhood, even today, they are talking about tribal clashes in South Sudan between the Nuer and another group. I think about 56 people were killed in that clash. Normally that has a spillover effect to our country. The disturbances in Eastern DRC, both in Kivu, ADF in Ituri, then M18 west of your home area, is an area of concern, another case of concern. By the way, we arrested the fellow who alleges to be the leader of M18, who was caught in your place last week.
In my place?
Yes. So we are not.
Which is your place?
Not Charles Odongutho's home, but in the Arul land. In Arul land. You're surprised, Sarah? He's his cousin, so that shouldn't surprise you. That's what happens with border communities. These things happen. So back to internal security, of course, in the recent months there have been attacks on security establishments. I'm glad to report that the guy who commanded the attack on Wasika and Luero is the one who got in Nyendo. The one who was got in Motuga had also been involved in attacking police. The guy who attacked Gaddafi barracks was our own, a deserter. We got him, but at a cost. That's what I was saying. When they went thinking they are approaching a civilized human being, we lost a soldier and 2 others were wounded in the fire exchange when he opened the fire. So some of the things we do are quite very life-threatening to our operatives. And you need to be a bit cautious when you're approaching some of these aspects. So I'm glad to say that bomb we got in Masaka, some of us, it sent chills because it was already prepared. What we haven't established, where was the guy taking it? Was it a church on Christmas Day? Was it a happening place? Where was he taking it? Now, the operations in Congo have helped us to get now these cells. Because the phones we capture, they give us the coordinators, the commanders in the country, the cell leaders, and hence those arrests. You may remember when we identified an underground training facility in Luero, some people claimed it was politicking and they accused it to be courageous politicking. But I think these things we have been getting now are testimony that indeed ADF is very active internally in the country, and hence it calls for more vigilance. 2, I would like to thank our legislators for giving us the support. We traveled to Somalia with the Committee of Parliament on Defense and Internal Affairs to visit our troops in the field. And the work we saw is very tremendous. In fact, there's something Honorable Mara mentioned about the Americans now warming up to President Museveni. True, I think the Baraka administration had tried to circumvent us and encourage the what I call going against the UN principles of neighbors deploying in a conflict. The UN peacekeeping principles never allowed that. However, this time around it was circumvented. For a particular reason I may not be privy to mention since I'm in uniform. But the intention didn't succeed. It was an attempt to lower Uganda's influence in the region. It didn't succeed though. And there you are. We helped in Sudan. DRC, we are at it. We have deployed also now in the East African Regional Force to deal with the negative elements. I'm impressed. M23 has surrendered some positions to the Kenyan contingent, which is a good sign for a negotiated settlement. We hope that side, the agreements reached before, can be fulfilled to encourage the parties to the conflict. By and large, the police is getting on top of the situation in terms of these attacks that were happening in the station. Are we interested in the guy who was arrested in Nyendo? Suffice to say, it was a joint operation for anti-terrorism. That means we are interested because he's an ADF commander. That's what I could say for starters.
Okay, but you missed the one of the border guy.
Okay, but the whole country knows we arrested that guy, the sergeant.
Yes, the question was he charged?
Yes, he was charged.
Is he serving?
Is he before court?
He's before court.
Yes.
When he's arrested, will be charged.
Court-martial.
And
he's in the court martial.
and then someone called Turiamuweza is saying, Charles, kindly, can you ask General Felix to comment on political statements by General M. Kainerugaba when he is still in military uniform this year? Is he above the law?
The last time I checked, General Kainerugaba is a presidential advisor. Therefore, the president's office can handle, not me.
Good one.
I have a question.
I am only interested in going for a break. That's a good answer. Let's go for a break.
He's an intelligent man.
That's why he's a spokesman.
Let's go for a break and then we come back because the time had actually
I told you he had notes.
Oh no, Francis, why are you revealing myself?
Sent to transport to the wrong person. Here's how to reverse it with MTN Mobile Money. Dial *165#. Select My Account. Select Initiate Reversal. You will see your last 3 transactions. Select the transaction you want to reverse. Enter your mobile money PIN and you'll get an SMS confirmation that the transaction has been blocked from being withdrawn. And that's it. Please note, only transactions that haven't been withdrawn can be reversed.
Do you need data collection services, data analysis and reporting, monitoring and evaluation systems? Then contact Mold Technologies, a professional research firm that has provided many organizations with timely research solutions for over 15 years. For more information, visit www.mt.co.ug or call us on 0704 913 399 or 0782 602 963. Visit our office in Kampala at Sayuni Complex in Tinda. Mood Technologies, your professional research firm.
The Ministry of Health reminds the public that Ebola is real and we must do whatever is required to prevent getting new cases. We therefore encourage everyone to remain vigilant and not to relax on Ebola. The symptoms of Ebola include sudden onset of fever, severe headache, muscle pain, weakness, sore throat, vomiting, bloody diarrhea, and in some cases, bleeding from the body openings. Please seek medical help from your nearest health center if you detect any Ebola symptoms. The sooner you start treatment, the higher your chances of survival. Please inform your nearest health center if you identify anyone with such symptoms. To prevent Ebola from spreading, follow the Ministry of Health and World Health Organization guidelines on Ebola. Wash your hands regularly with clean water and soap. Ensure safe and dignified burials of Ebola victims. Avoid handshaking and hugging. For more information on what you need to know and do concerning Ebola, please call toll-free 0800 100 066 or SMS 8500.
This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Health with support from the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, and in partnership with the Interreligious Council of Uganda, Buganda Kingdom and Kampala Capital City Authority.
Are you tired of high fees and slow transfer time when sending money? Look no further. Airtel Money is here to revolutionize the way you move your money. We have revised our rates, and now sending money from Airtel to other networks in Uganda, East Africa, and to the rest of the world has never been more affordable. Plus, you can trust Airtel Money to get your money where it needs to go quickly and safely. Simply dial *185# and start sending money. Switch to Airtel Money today and experience unbeatable rates and top-notch services for all your local and international money transfer needs. Airtel Money, instant, secure, borderless.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is no longer news that Ebola is with us. Please wash your hands with the soap every now and then. For the entire business community, ladies and gentlemen, let us lead by example. Let us sensitize our customers and let us be cautious. Avoid the handshaking, avoid the hugs, because it is dangerous for everyone.
If you, your loved ones, or anyone else in your community is experiencing any Ebola signs and symptoms, immediately inform the health officials in your area. You can also call 0800 100 066 or text 8500 for free to notify the health authorities. Together, we can beat Ebola. This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Health with support from USAID, WHO, and UNICEF.
It's our mission to secure your money.
Protecting your money is as important as earning it. It is for this reason that the Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda, DPF, was established by the government of Uganda to provide deposit protection to customers of regulated financial institutions. In the unlikely event that your commercial bank, credit institution, or microfinance deposit-taking institution fails, the DPF will pay you up to 10 million Uganda shillings. Keep your personal information such as national identification number, mobile phone, or an alternative bank account updated with your banker. Terms and conditions apply. For more information, contact DPF at Aha Towers, Plot 7 Lodell Road, Kampala. Call 0312 206 400 or visit our website at www.dpf.or.ug.
We are the DPF. We protect your money. Protection Fund of Uganda.
Paying for groceries the old way.
3, 4, 5.
I don't even know what he's doing.
7, 8, 9.
Allow me. Paying for groceries with the My Airtel app. You have the power in your pocket. The power to conveniently pay for goods and services. Unlock that power with the My Airtel app. Visit the App Store or Google Play now.
That's my wife. Yeah, let me just take these coins.
Over the years, we've dreamed to get onto the world stage. We've had that dream crushed. We've witnessed a total defeat of what could have been our greatest moment. We've felt our spirits go up, only to take a hard fall. We've had our fires burn out and leave only scars. We've seized the wind and had it pulled from our grasp. We've seen pain and we've seen loss of the last fragments of hope. But we are made of resilience, and resilience never stops dreaming. So we will dream even bigger with the Cranes Cup Bowl 2026. Together, let's take Uganda to the next FIFA World Cup.
Together, let's take Uganda to the next FIFA World Cup. For every Now special you buy, we will give 50 shillings to the Uganda Cranes 2026 fund. You will also get the chance to choose how the Cranes Cup Bowl contributions are spent. Now special, official beer of the FIFA World Cup and official beer partner of the Uganda Cranes.
Alcohol is not for sale to persons under 18. Please drink responsibly.
Welcome back from the break. This is Behind the Headlines, this 28th of December, a Wednesday. It's 22, coming to an end, the last Wednesday of the year. And Behind the Headlines sits here to dissect what major events in the news, current affairs made the headlines in 2022. We have a load down of them, and what a year it was. From the big losses of human resource, you know, the heavyweights in government, to, and by the way, we may not need to forget even the former secretary to cabinet,
yes,
who was just laid to rest this week. A man who really served in cabinet, at the helm of cabinet for many years. What a legacy that he left, and that many public servants
and quite a cool-headed gentleman.
Oh yes, he was.
Absolutely.
You know, he would smile despite all the stress
humility.
and pressures you would see him going through, but you would never think in his characteristic. I think the Honorable Babu also has that kind of kitenge shirt. You remember the Mandela one? He used to have many of them. I follow you guys, so I know how you people dress
well
in this world.
Yes.
But as we came towards the break, you know, Honorable Kulaije did a good one on me and my asker from out there. The guy who asked a question, the Honorable Babu, they call them askers.
Yes.
Yes, the one who asks questions.
Yes.
So Sarah wanted to rebut, and I said I will give you the moment when we come back from the break. So Sarah wanted to make a follow-up on that, the Honorable
yes, thank you very much, Charles. I think, Honorable Kraije, we need to be fair to this country and the citizens that employ you people in public offices. The issue of abductions cannot be wished away. I appreciate the elements you mentioned about ADF, but the major victims of abductions in this country are the political activists, and you've not even successfully linked them to the ADF rebel activities. Just one example. In the first week of December this month, Bob Wine's guard was charged with damaging a drone that kidnapped him. 4 people are kidnapped. They are held in unknown places for 30 days. They are tortured, and they are presented in court after 30 days with torture marks. And guess what the charge is? Damaging a drone that kidnapped them. Are those the enemies of the state you are referring to, Honorable Kraije? Why don't we be fair to this country?
In my talking, I did not use the word enemies of the state, did I?
Okay, rebels. Is damaging a drone a rebel activity that warrants you to kidnap people? And a drone that kidnapped them, how did they damage it even?
Now, I cannot answer for what happened in court, as you know. If that's the charge that was put against them, then we interrogate from the prosecutors what exactly could have happened. I have given the circumstances of those arrests I mentioned. 2, I am also aware that the arrests are not for political actors. Otherwise, the first actor would have been Bobi Wine himself.
He was arrested once and charged in court martial.
No.
In 2018. In Arua.
For?
Whatever it is, he was charged in court martial and charges dropped.
Possession of guns.
I think that's what the courts are supposed to do. They either dropped or they sustain them and the person
But
defends
we are
themselves.
talking of kidnaps.
No, there's no kidnapping. I have told you that there are different types of arrests. And if one is Bobby Wine is bodyguard, it does not put him above the law. If he's a suspect, they will arrest him. And if there's no case, he will be set free.
Okay. Honorable Babu.
Thank you very much. The other day I attended a church, and during the sermon, the priest said something that impressed me absolutely. It is something called kenosis. It is in the Bible, where Jesus as God came, became human, and went to the lowly. In other words, describing the word humility at its best. One of the things I've realized in this country, we don't have humility. People say things the way they want to say them, and people think they have entitlements. Yeah. Other people demand. Other people insult. Other people are totally indisciplined. If you look at the chaos in this town of some of our vehicles, starting with all sorts of vehicles up to the top, the chaos is unbelievable. The kind of language when somebody does something wrong is totally unacceptable. They say all sorts of things. So today, I am going to ask the people and the people in this panel, the time has come for us to have a bit of humility, and at the same time, try and ask a few questions. One of the things I'm going to talk about is security. I would like to talk about that. I would like to put my friend, the general, on a spot that you do not explain it to us very well. We do not understand you. Whenever you come on media, we listen, but do we understand? No. Okay. There are three words which everybody uses in this country. One is kidnap, the other one is abduction, the other one is arrest. We've never got, nobody explains it well. You tried a few minutes ago. You also do not tell us about the type of criminals we have in this country. Today, you try to talk about terrorism.
Yes.
But try and explain to us the different levels of these people you arrest. We don't understand. Maybe if you explained it to us a little bit better, notwithstanding your security methods, which you don't want to divulge to us, but can you explain to us, for example, our activists and our political parties, their behavior, and therefore they are being arrested. According to the political parties that talk about, they say you are kidnapping them. You are abducting them. And then when you take them, you don't take them to court. Are there such things really? Or is it an assumption? The other day, I saw a gentleman in Nairobi showing a very big scar on the leg that his human right had been violated. On the other side, somebody was saying, no, that was a border accident.
Yes.
Now, we are confused. So I'd like to ask you, and I'm asking you very kindly, that the security organizations you have should bring an explanation so that the average mind like us can understand the arrests, the methods, and why some of them are arrested in their different ways, and who goes to the court martial, who goes to the normal court, who is kept in detention this long, and why. I think this is what people would like to know. Once that is done, some of us would probably stop using these words if we understood. I think that's where the problem is, and I'm sorry. For example, there are people who are abducted. They are in prison, they are not brought to court. Some of them are dead. But when they tell us, they don't give us details.
No.
They only mention this, and some of us remain, no, but why don't they tell us how this is done? So I would like you to help us, and please explain to us, because one, we have friends. I have friends in America, I have friends in Britain, and when they ask me, I cannot answer. I cannot give, is it true, is it not true? So the security is not giving us a thorough explanation on these issues, and I think if they did, probably a few things will become clear. A few minutes ago when you explained, I started seeing something new, like, oh, when you're arresting a terrorist, it's different from arresting a criminal thief.
Because it's more dangerous.
It's more dangerous. Maybe you can tell us.
Proportional force.
These activists of political parties, are they going towards terrorism?
Are they
no.
armed?
So maybe somebody...
But maybe to add to that, Afande, you do a job I have an idea about, you know, trying to really protect the image of a big institution, the defense sector, the military, which is involved in very risky activities. But we know that in terms of reputation and the image, look at, for example, when our boys in security come off what they now call the drone, a van, and some of them are in slippers, in sandals, and then they are wearing jackets that you see are even dirty. Then they grab someone in full view
of the public,
of the camera, whether it is a phone or whatever, or they are taking the pictures themselves. Then they grab someone, they beat the person, and you are seeing that these are well-trained 6, 7 gentlemen, and they are holding someone who is already almost given up, and then they are torturing the person, and the cameras are there. Then they push the person in the van, lock it, and run away. I know that it is very hard work for you to speak to defend that, but isn't that something that is really not good for public viewing? What would you say about that? Is that also because someone is extremely dangerous, like you rightly explained?
Yeah, I wanted to take a little bit up to that whilst the general is here, I think he should go back to all the security agencies. We're not talking about one. Uganda is not run by one security agency. I keep on hearing people quoting certain people. No, we have a national security. We have a president who is the chairman of the National
Security Council.
National Security Council. We have different security organs which are on this. And I think we should get a good explanation, very well done, not impromptu. And I'm going a little bit further. They're not going to tell us how they gather their intelligence. They're not going to tell you that the guy will put on a kanzu, the guy will sit there as a layman, the guy will travel on a border, he will not tell you all this. Of course he will not. But they should explain that, by the way, I'm even surprised he told us on the telephones we have managed to get this and that and that. I would like to thank him for that, because he told us they managed to get these people and the cells, because in the Congo they managed to get information about them. Now, I want us to get this done, and he can take his time, and they should really come out and explain, because it is giving us a bad name outside this country. I want them to know that, okay, a few things have happened, and during this exercise, by the way, mistakes happen.
Correct.
This is not the only place in the world where this has not happened. It has happened in Iraq, it has happened in
Cuba,
in Vietnam, it has happened everywhere. So I wanted us to, I brought this point out, to ask the general, kindly get these organizations to give us a good explanation so that people can understand.
Do you want to let him answer now?
Yes, I'll let him do that. Then I'll ask something afterwards.
Thank you, Babu, and I'm glad you have brought it out. I commit to do exactly that. I would take feedback so that the various security heads indeed can put some of the things succinctly and clearly.
Yes.
For the benefit of the citizens and for the good of the country. But there are also cases that we personally I'm reluctant to go into. Cases which appear as political activism, but actually they are bending towards political subversion. And I can't go on TV and begin saying, see, some of these individuals are involved in this and the other. I can't. But I have the full knowledge. Some of these individuals, and that's why I gave the example. If it was political activism, I think the most active politicians are Bobby Wine, Senyonyi, but they are not being arrested. So it's not about political activism. There's something more to it. The individuals that were arrested in Karangara, in Bombo, at the time we did, nobody knew what they were planning to do except security, which had landed into the things they were planning to do. There was even likelihood of not having elections in this country. But you know, when things are okay, to you, the ordinary eye, you take everything for granted. This security we enjoy, as Dr. Mungu said, we can sit here at this time, has a cost, not only in terms of money, but in terms of man hours of people who spend time following leads, people who guard us, people who spend sleepless nights analyzing intelligence. These are quite arduous activities. We do not want to be patted on the back for doing them because that's our job anyway. But I would also request that where we make errors, correct us as we are doing, but hanging us does not solve the problem.
Not at all.
Yes.
Not at all. Maybe, Honorable Babu, let me first bring in your colleagues.
That's where I was going.
Thank you. Honorable Omara, I know that we had so many thoughts we brought out, economy as well as livelihoods and other things, and investment, but the issue of security seemed to take the lead, rightly so perhaps, because I still recall that brilliant statement made by President Museveni during the State of Nation address when he was exchanging with my friend, my good friend Honorable Semuju, and then the President cutly responded and said, oh, if you think that putting money in security is not important for these other sectors to thrive, you first go and try your agriculture, nice agriculture of coffee in Mogadishu, and have never forgotten it. So security is important, very vital, nonetheless. But going forward, what are your thoughts on some of the sticking issues that are coming out as we move forward to the next year? Are they things you also asked about the general who some people think is being treated like, you know, above the law? You asked about that as well. Going forward, do you see that the succession question is going to take a different dimension, and that you in the political active field are going to be forced to take it up on the mainstream discussion even in Parliament? Do you foresee that, or you think that it must take the side of, you know, let's first sort this at NRM level?
Thank you, Charles. Where I'm seated, President Museveni has been elected for 5 years.
True.
Which ends in
2026.
2026. And there's a very clear manifesto which is there. And you remember we have had this debate that should we do the politicking now, or should we, given the fact that we are coming from COVID, we should allow the economy to reboot, focus on the manifesto, and move forward. Time for politics will come. So I think for me is that let's focus on the manifesto, rebuild the economy, because that is fundamental. Politics can't work without a vibrant economy. Secondly, within the NRM there's a constitution. There is a Central Executive Committee that looks at presidential candidates. They are vetted. It comes down to the National Conference, and all that. People compete, and then eventually I think a candidate will come through. If somebody, for example, you mentioned MK, if he's currently still in uniform and any action by him would go against the Constitution and the UPDF Act. And so therefore, if you'd want to seek for early retirement so that he can compete within the NRM, that is fine, but from the message they have, they said the NRM has become very reactionary. So he might want to, to form his own political party.
I liked that part.
His own political party, which is actually within his own right, so that he can compete in 2026. So it's within his right to do that. But I think the broader conversation would be the issue of succession. President Museveni has, I think after in 2026 would have governed for 40 years. If he still wants to continue, you remember Parliament removed the age limit. He would offer himself for another term. If he still feels the energy is there, then it will be up to NRM to make a decision on that. So that conversation is alive and well, and I think for us to advance our democracy, we should no longer fear to have that conversation. I think human beings are immortal. We shouldn't say, you know, don't talk about this, don't say that. And everybody should be within their rights to canvass for support at the right time. And if you're in uniform, you get out of the uniform first, and then you come into the political field. And it's a minefield, by the way. The other one which I really want to comment about is about the central bank governor. I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, I don't know what the law says, but listening to Dr. Sarah is saying that a governor is fully constituted when there's a governor and a deputy governor. I don't know whether any action, because currently I don't know who is signing on our money, because the signature of the governor should be the word on the money. And the question then would, when would Uganda currency cease to become legal tender? I think that's a big question. And in our law, for how long will the notes signed by the late Professor Mutabile remain legal tender? That would be an issue. The question is, if Dr. Michael Atingi signs on the money, would it make it legal or illegal?
In what capacity can he can't sign?
I said I'm not a lawyer.
Okay.
So I think the Attorney General, if he's listening to us, the Attorney General should get time and go and sit down with the President and bring the import of these matters to the President, because the President has the mandate to appoint a governor of the central bank. Where I'm seated, Dr. Michael Atingi is one of the best we have in the country. So he has acted for over 6 months now. He's a clear choice for some of us, but that's the prerogative of the President. So I think there's a legal issue there. There's some legal import, and that matter needs to be addressed, and we can talk to the Attorney General if there is any breach of the law for that to be considered. I think, Charles, one of the things which is happening within the economy, and I want to agree with the General, that the headline inflation hit that 10.7, 10.6% on account of food.
Yes.
Food inflation. And we had predicted that with the bumper harvest happening in this final leg of the year, the food inflation will basically drop. And when that one drops, definitely headline inflation will fall below the 10% digit figure. And so Uganda, I think we are blessed with the fertile soils and good climate and good rains. And what we just need to focus on and making sure that we can feed ourselves, there is food security. And so that angle we should not get lost on us, that our food will actually support us very much on inflation. And then finally, Charles, one other thing that I'm interested to see is the political formations. I think one of the highlights which became a big debate is Honorable Mao Norbert joining government. You know, Mao was one of the leaders who were together with the general at the university, competed so strongly against the late Noble Mayombo. And we have all along been waiting for his leadership to come to fruition. Some people said he joined a wrong party.
I'm sure he's not foolish.
So Norbert is now in government. UPC is beautifully aligned with the NRM. So you have the NRM there. So you have now the FDC and the National Unity Platform there. And of course you hear the MK agenda also as well. We don't know how that one will end. I am interested to see the future formation, political formations of our country, whether there will be an aggression or there will be more kind of more accommodative politics in terms of focusing on what really matters for the people of Uganda, other than, you know, dragging ourselves there for political purposes. So I really want to...
Honorable, can I give information?
Thank you.
Just briefly.
Yes.
Charles, there is a statement Honorable Babu made about discipline. I think it falls very nicely in your submission.
Yes.
As long as actors act with discipline, mutual respect for each other,
yes,
this country will move forward in whatever you want to discuss, whether succession, whether what, as long as we have mutual respect for each other.
Yes.
But to think that because you are energetic, you can elbow Honorable Babu,
yes,
that's not political action.
No.
It is a mob action.
Absolutely.
I thought I would give that information.
Absolutely true.
Yeah.
And so that space is there for all of us. So if we base the discussion on issues other than on personalities and being more aggressive, I think we will have a better way forward. I tweeted some time back on the issue of accommodation, and I was hammered badly by some elements within the political circles. and they brought for me the scars of people, journalists and so forth. They said, how can you make peace with people like that? And I said, even Nelson Mandela went into prison. He was incarcerated for 27 years. When he came out, he talked peace. You cannot talk peace with your friends. You talk peace with your enemies. And when you do that, there's a big sense of accommodation that can take us forward. I just want to mention something quickly on the drones. I think for the good of the country and for stability, because perception rules, one of the things that I think most of the time that President Museveni struggles with is a moment something indisciplined people abuse human rights in the country. And these are elements within security forces. You can't say it's the army or whatever. So some bad elements within security forces, they mishandle people. And they create this terrible image of our country and government outside there. They are not doing us a favor. They are basically dismantling what has taken years to rebuild. I remember I mentioned before that by 1986, Uganda was a failed state. So now you build something to something that is so respectable. Then a few elements go and really torture people.
Exactly.
So we must collectively say we are opposed to torture, to criminal elements within our security forces that make us look bad. And then you really have to waste a lot of time, and it needs to take the president to go and explain on these matters. So I think we really need to deal with it and face it squarely that we had seen it before, and for a better Uganda, we cannot tolerate it. And then
the Constitution actually actively describes torture as one of those non-derogable rights. Under no circumstance must it be occasioned. I think in Article 44 or 43?
44.
Yes.
But also arrests are defined under Article 23. So you cannot argue that the way you go kidnapping people is an arrest. The Constitution is clear.
Dr. Sarah, one of the things that gives me comfort is that the Commander-in-Chief has severally, not once, but severally, written to the chiefs.
The security agencies.
Yes,
reminding them.
No, and telling them, you
with
cannot,
no action.
No, you cannot extract evidence using torture.
It's not admissible in court.
It's not admissible in court. You go with that one, the court will just say, you know, you extracted this thing, look at the marks behind, and you would just release the, even somebody can be a criminal.
Okay.
Finally, and this finally, I was shocked by what Dr. Sarah said about salaries not being paid. The PSST was seated somewhere near General Was, and he saw, and he said, on the, is it on the, almost around the end of the month, all salaries would have been released. Put a particular date on it during the month that all salaries would be released. I think that is a priority for Ministry of Finance to do that. And I'm yet to find out whether actually people were not paid and why. Because that for us is fundamental. People had to go for Christmas and so forth, and people have families and they have worked.
Yeah.
So if salaries are not yet still being paid and not being prioritized, I think this is a conversation that as a Committee of Finance we'll really find out what is really wrong.
I think what maybe as MPs you need to interest yourselves in is some institutions or even authorities that use you know, this kind of opportunities to do mischief, because there are all kinds of bosses, there are all kinds of you know, leaders, directors in charge of whatever. Perhaps when they hear that ministry is delaying, for them they also take time to now do their own mischief within the organizations they lead. And then in the end, the game again is made general, when actually it is institutional or even a leadership failure somewhere.
Charles, one of the things that the PSST promised was that they are trying to deal with corruption by digitizing government.
Yes.
And that also includes payment systems, where salaries are sent electronically to people's accounts. So there is no third-party involvement in people's salaries. It should go electronically to their accounts.
Okay.
Now, if it is being triggered from center electronically, where is it hanging? Maybe we'll need to find
I needed to bring in Dr. Muhumuza and then
brief
Sarah.
information for Honorable.
Yes.
Honorable, on Friday, Parliament actually did task the Minister of Finance to explain the failure of salaries. And the Honorable Matia Kasaija is on record to have said he needed 10 minutes to consult.
Yes.
When the 10 minutes were over, he came back and said he's unable. He actually needed leave to go to the ministry, and people were asking whether he's the one who practically pays. The Parliament did debate that.
I was some country I missed.
Yes, and the several districts, including Ruero and Nakaseke, are saying they are unable to pay salaries for December. And they were appealing to staff to wait, that they would receive salaries in January.
Okay, we are coming to the end, but Dr. Muhumuza, you talked about debates. You regretted the fact that we have had too many debates that do not help the nation. What would you offer as a solution? Do you think that is it you who called it juvenile politics?
No, I am the one.
It was Captain Babu. That gave it a name. But I wanted to ask Dr. Muhumuza, these debates, they seem to be escalating. And really, the public does not get value out of it. How do we engage the country in valuable discussions that help give it more production and a way forward?
Yeah, thank you. Really, I think it's I try to avoid things called debates because they don't sometimes give solutions. She just talked about the debate in Parliament, debating people's salaries. Somebody out there has had Christmas without a salary.
Yeah.
They are going to have a new year without a salary, and Parliament is debating. Now, so what do you tell that person out there?
And their families.
And you employed them. You knew they were on your payroll. You knew they were working for you. You had to plan better. And in our budgeting, we always say first priority on the budget is debt management. So you pay the debts. The second priority is salaries. Now, the conversation again, the debate, fiscal charter, is it 53, is it what? While you are debating whether it should be 50% or 53, somebody is going without their salary. Bottom line is the economy. Everybody wants to have that livelihood of theirs. What is the economy speaking to me? You can say inflation has come down. The prices have not. Inflation is the speed at which the prices are rising. But for somebody whose salary has not changed, even as we debate paying them, if somebody's salary has not changed in the last 12 months, they are getting much less. The purchasing power or the ability to use that salary to meet their ends has reduced over the last 12 months until you restore by increasing their salary. So whether you are paying them or not, they are already disadvantaged. And you don't want to debate that. Well, that's where people really are. So while we are looking out there, you're looking at a woman or man or a child who goes to a health facility and they really can't find a drug. And the debate we had in the 90s, going back to the debate, and for us we shifted from it being a debate, we say, these are facts. How does really debt cost a country? It shouldn't be a discussion of debt to GDP or which percentage it is. Economics is very clear on what is the opportunity cost. What would you have used that money for is the real cost of debt. And in the 90s we had that conversation. That's why we were even forgiven debt. Because we said the money we are using to pay our debt should have taken children to school. That money should have bought drugs and improved our health facilities. And our creditors listened to us, the World Bank, IMF, because of the conversations Mr. Mtebile was having with the parish clubs, and they came up and forgave the highly indebted poor countries and told us this money should now go to education. Now here we are having a conversation that if I look at the capitation per child, and we are now rolling out 8 million children in school, but really we are committing less than 40 shillings per day to a child in primary school. Is that education? So that's why you want to come back, and these are not matters for debate. We want to face them and say, how do we make sure?
Per day.
40 shillings, and kabaragara is 200. So you
can't
really need
even
5
buy
days.
a pencil.
You need 5 days to buy a kabaragara. And we are now conversing how children should have milk in school. So, I mean, these are the issues you want to bring down to bear and say, how are we crossing 2023 into 2023 with these issues binding us? And we have to come back to this conversation. Right now, the budget has gone to 49.9 trillion. But the actual money available to deliver services, including paying salaries, has reduced by 2.5 trillion because of debt. So we cannot begin to debate a fiscal charter. These are realities on the ground, that the budget is bigger, but there is going to be less money to actually deliver services to the people. Our road maintenance is really in a bad shape. We are right now rolling out PDM money, giving money to the poor people, subsistence, to buy seed and plant. But these people can't cross a river.
And increasing salary.
Because the road maintenance is badly off. So there are serious issues that we are crossing into the year with, and we don't need to debate these issues. We really need to sit down and try to find solutions. So for me, really, as an economist, my plate is full as I cross into the year, and I'm going to really engage. We know how we do these conversations and engagements.
Not debates.
Not debates. These are issues we must resolve. These roads must be fixed. We are still losing, I think on average, it's about 10 mothers per day trying to give birth. This is not a conversation. We are here debating people who have lost, who are big. People are losing their loved ones every day, unavoidable deaths that we can really avoid. So this for me is really, I have a full plate as I walk into the year to take conversations as an academic also involved in the practice
information
of trying to
Mr.
make sure
Chairman.
things are better.
Yep.
I just, the information I want to provide to the to Doctor, is that the Charter for Fiscal Responsibility that Parliament approved, which we did last year, it was for a 5-year period.
Yes.
For the 5-year period. And looking at, let's pick an item in the Charter, which is debt. We said in this financial year, 2022-2023, we projected that our debt to GDP, given where we were coming from and the level of tax to GDP ratio, was still low at 13%. At that time, it was hovering at 22 trillion. We said if the the budget ceiling is 48.1 trillion, then for us to fund this budget in the first year, then our debt to GDP ratio should be 53.1%. And that is why you find actually that before we went out for a break, we were borrowing money to fill that gap. And it was still 50 point something, going to 53.1. It has not yet reached there. So that's the first year. Then the second year it will go up, and even the third. In the fourth year, it will start coming down and closing at 49%, debt to GDP ratio at 49%. So if that is the charter framework, which we have approved as Parliament, we are following it carefully.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
So
that's the debate in Parliament, as I close. We have seen that. I have been in the ministry. We debated that it will not even reach 50%. Now, for you to even go beyond 50%, I know your assumptions. I know the assumptions behind the charter. I've already said if you don't do road maintenance, give me 2 reasons why it should begin to go down. They're not there. You're just using assumptions, but that's a debate. And me, I don't debate things.
I would want us to come back here, Charles. Let's come back on the budget and on the economy.
Yes. That plate which is full needs to be helped.
Yes, and I will deal with my plate. I don't want assumptions.
That's right.
Because I know the realities.
And I think he's speaking the truth.
Yes.
Let us see where the problems are. He talked about opportunity costs. He talked about a lot of good things. Right now, this government, the administrative costs are too high.
Yes.
Time has come for us to be clear.
And the security budget is rising, and I don't want to touch that because this is a security matter.
That's right. Now, the administrative costs. Why do we have this parliament? Why must we have 529 people? Why must we have 8 ministers?
Some people say democracy is expensive.
No. Let us reduce those people. I don't know why you told my friend off when he said, let's get that money and pay the policemen. As far as I'm concerned, this country can have a parliament of 150 people is enough, and the rest of the money can go to help that plate.
Or possibly none at all.
What was the size of NRC?
Senior,
about 180.
No, it was less.
Yes, I know.
Wasn't it 126?
Senior.
So NRC was 35.
Let us very quickly thank everybody.
96 or something?
The Rio Regional was 35. And we made very good progress in economics.
And the debates were very lovely.
So I'm going to give each of you 1 minute to wind up because it's an interesting discussion you can understand and appreciate. A discussion loading down the entire, 1 year, and it's a year which has been full of activities is not easy. But let's do some justice. Just 1 minute each, winding up by looking into 2023.
Treating us like Parliament. Each one has 2 minutes.
At least I gave you over 10 each. Mine is better.
What can you
I donate my minute to sir.
What can you debate in 2 minutes?
Going forward, 2023, what do you want to see?
I think for me there are 3 important issues that we need to focus on in 2023. One is where Dr. Mhumza stopped, the full plate of economic issues and challenges that we need to address as a country. Our public administration budget is abnormally big. I don't know why or what we intend to achieve with, for example, 81 ministers when the constitutional threshold would have been 23 ministers, cabinet ministers, and 23 junior ministers, a total of 46. So we have doubled the constitutional threshold. If you look at presidential advisors, I think they are about 122. And at times, I know some of them have come to the media to say they never meet the president. So meaning that those are posts for just drawing allowances from a taxpayer with no work being done. Are they necessary? If you look at the divisions in the district, every sub-county is almost a district now. What was a sub-county in 86 is now a district. Has it provided better services? Because the argument was that we are taking services closer to the people. But even in Kampala alone, you can easily crown the executive director of Kampala as a queen of potholes. Because we have no roads, literally. So are we taking services to the people? So the second important debate is what Honorable Paul Mara was talking about, the debate on transition. It's very unfortunate that for 60 years of independence, this country has not witnessed peaceful handover of power. We need to deal with this question. We cannot hide our heads in the sand. Nobody has a preserve or monopoly of ruling this country or ruling over any nation for that matter. And as citizens, it's our right to determine how we want to be governed. We need to deal with this question. The third question for me is human rights. Sovereignty of any nation is about two things: the territorial integrity of a country and the people. Once you make a decision to degrade and degenerate one section of citizens just because they don't support you, you know that you are losing it as a nation. And as Ugandans, we need to deal with this question because we are on a downward trend of losing it.
Okay. As we come to Dr. Muhumuza to wind up, someone called SD says, the issue of salaries, could your committee, he's calling this sitting, this panel committee, please take interest in salaries for public universities? The president gave an enhancement of salary to all lecturers, but it was not distributed equitably, in bracket pro rata. The demoralization is real. The top guys get about 3 times what the others get, but the workload is heavier on those who earn less. This shouldn't really happen. People live in the same economy. The lower guys cannot reach the president's ears for him to direct a correction to be made. Please help.
And it's my prayer that next year I will be able to help on those issues. My plate is full. I want to go and rest. Tomorrow I start on this. Let's see how we focus on the real typical Ugandan and the typical problem of Uganda.
But let me make a follow-up of that, Dr. Muhumuza. It's one of the things for me I have met in this more debates in Makerere convocation politics. You listen to people saying, the president gave us a salary enhancement.
Yes.
The rest have been implemented. That Makerere University is the only one not implemented. Is that true? Why does that happen? Where must they run to?
I'm not very sure whether it's true or not true.
But others have implemented theirs.
But of course Makerere is a giant institution.
So the giant should be the weak one.
Sometimes the releases to different institutions, universities. You might have a university which has staff of maybe 200 or 400, they're small universities. So if they receive a smaller budget, they can easily implement across. Now Makerere is a more complicated thing because there are different tiers of professors and I don't know who else. The problems are more there to resolve. But that said, as I've said, let that be part of what we want to resolve. Because as I've said, it's not just Makerere. You even have other scientists and other staff in public institutions and local governments who have not been paid. The salary issue in this country is really not as straightforward as you are saying, click, PSST, and salary goes to people's accounts. There are people who are on account this month, they fall off next month, they struggle to get back after 4 months, they are back. It's really a nightmare that needs to be cleaned up. Sadly, in the era of computers, we are still facing these challenges. That if I wanted to call you Charles, wherever you are, my MTN number, as long as I get the right number, MTN will look for you and give it to me. But here is a problem that we cannot send somebody's salary. Leave alone know when are they retiring, where are they, who are they. I mean, it's a whole kind of issue that needs to be resolved. And I think that should be part of our package going into.
I would understand the challenges in 2-3 years, but 7 years, 5,
that's
it's
why
hard to understand.
It is a human error or human deliberate act. We need to sort out that.
So the problem is also leadership. Okay. Honorable
Charles, we've debated a lot. We need to come back on the budget and on the economy with the...
It is just before you, sir.
With the doctor.
The BFA has just come to you.
Yes.
We are going to debate it.
So, Charles, I think my number one when we return is on the budget proposals which government has made with the budget ceiling of 49.9 trillion, is 1.1 trillion above the previous financial year. I think what is key, I think which doctor is concerned about, is prioritization. Where does the money go, the huge amount go? When you talk about Parliament, actually the budget for Parliament is about 700 billion shillings. It's a small amount of money in a total basket of money. So we have to be very careful about what we say. So prioritization, we are going to look at those ministerial policy statements and making sure that is in sync with the people's agenda. I think the second issue which we must deal with is industrialization of Uganda, which is one of the 4 pillars that the president has identified. How do we industrialize Uganda? Currently, we have about 5,000 factories. The question is, are they producing to full capacity? What is it that we are producing? And then that will also help to create youth employment. There's a lot of youth unemployment. If you go to the airport, every day you see these girls and boys going to, or actually broad day slavery. We need to create industrialization at home so that we create jobs for our young people. The third one is domestic revenue generation. Some people might not notice it. With this economy, which is downtrodden, every month they're actually shooting their marks. We're budgeted for this financial year for URA to collect tax and non-tax revenue, totaling 25 trillion. The 51.7%, which we talked about, contribution towards our budget. In this new budget, I think URA is projected to collect around 29 trillion. That's a move in the right direction. It will help us to borrow less over time. That is where me and my brother here will come and say our appetite for debt will have to slow down as we generate more revenue locally. And then the fourth one is our journey towards being self-sufficient in oil. This is the oil magic which we are looking at to come in 2025. Prof, that is one of the things that will help us if we stay in tandem.
And the Ghana example.
Okay, I'm not saying it's a magic bullet.
We need to wind up.
It's not a magic bullet, but if we, in this budget, if we make sure that we appropriate sufficient money and we follow through, so that by 2025, that target that we have set for ourselves, if we begin to generate that oil revenue, giving us about $2 billion every year, will actually supplement our budget. I submit.
Thank you. Honorable Captain Babu.
The elite of this country, I want them to have a very strong warning. They are stirring up this country. Politically, they are playing games. Economically, they are talking too much theory. Our people are poor. They have to be risen from the poverty. But Obasanjo put it very clearly many years ago when he was handing over power to the civilian, that the elite of the country have a tendency to stir problems, and when the problems ferment and come out, they take the aeroplane and go to destination where they have kept their loot. There is corruption in this country. People have stolen government money.
Yeah.
There's cronyism in this country. There's some very bad people in this country who are destroying this country. I want us to take a resolution as a country, including those bad people, that this coming year is a time for us to change so that this country can feed our people and the people can get to know that they are included in this country. Because this elitism, which is being talked, the way people talk here, the indiscipline,
the greed,
that must stop in the coming year. And this talk of corruption, let's stop handling these people with kids' gloves. You hear somebody, you hear all sorts of things, and the people who are stealing the money are walking free all over the place. So I don't want you to think that I'm going to go with this economy of dates and whatnot. Kenya has got 70% debt. Nobody's talking about it. Let's talk about this country. What are we going to do to lift our people out of poverty? That is where the problem is. Hey, the problem is not getting figures and dividing them using a calculator. No.
Okay.
I would like people to know that the people are waiting, and I go back to that word of humility. Our elite have to stop being British or American. They have to become Ugandans.
Yeah. And see through the problems.
And see what the people are going through.
The real problems.
This attitude people have got, oh, it's very unfortunate.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Finally, Honorable Kulaije.
Well, we are speaking parables.
Easy to understand.
I can tell the country as we end the year, there has been certain improvement in how we are doing our work. It's work in progress. There are indisciplined those who misbehave. We don't refuse that. But it's work in progress. And we are going to see more progress next year in terms of how we do our business. The bottom line, however, the country must remain secure. The people of Uganda must remain secure in whatever they are doing. And whoever thinks can threaten the peace of the country, sorry, we shall deal with him sternly. Because those are there. Like I said, I won't go in details. But also I would like to see a mindset change over the entire population. I think the solutions are going to come from elsewhere. In my view, is outdated. Solutions are within us. The PDM money which is being sent down there, Dr. Muhumuza, I'm afraid there has been a neglect of the most important ingredient, mindset change. You will put billions if you want, or trillions, but as long as people still think the way they do, this money will be squandered and we are back to zero. In my view, that's a bullet that was going to help a lot because it is bringing government to the people. The elitism Honorable Babu is talking about was being circumvented with this PDM. The success of PDM, in my view, would see the common person participate in government. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have some friends that I met at Makerere University. They said, we are watching you. The program is interesting. The discussions you have had. Mulani, James, and Peter, thank you very much for watching. And talking of Makerere, for me, I'm taking this opportunity to mobilize people. The alumni, the workers of Makerere, there is going to be...
Since you thank those who are watching, I'm also thanking Mzee Kwizera who is watching.
Mzee Kwizera is watching you?
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
Can we wish everybody happy?
Oh yes, we are going to. There are two things I wanted to end on. One is to mobilize the students, alumni of Makerere to come on Friday. Free advert for the Vice Chancellor and Dr. Tanga Odoi, who is chairperson of the convocation. Needless to say, I'm also interested in the party because I'm running for chairman of the convocation of Makerere University. So they should come
now
on Friday.
UBC should charge you for that advert.
Yeah. That is the only thing I get. That's the only thing I get from it. So they should come from all over if they are registered and subscribed to vote for me on Friday because we want better leadership.
Yeah.
It starts in the morning. That's one. Two, a New Year message. We are going to enter 2023 in, it has got to be well because I have just got, like, you know, very close to that, someone is sending me a message that has been forwarded that if you have members coming from Mbarara to Kampala, check on them. An accident around Chinoni, a trailer has rammed into a taxi and several other cars. Over 20 bodies so far retrieved. May they rest in peace. This is not good. Of course, this is an ordinary person's message, not from doctors or a hospital. So we can't confirm whether those are dead bodies or not, but this is how the message is coming through. But kindly, please, let's have a happy new year. Let's not drive so crazy. Let's not, you know, drive when tired, because doctors, I think it is security police that said people tend to make, around this time, people tend to make double journeys, you know, the same day. In the end, they are tired. They don't reveal to the passengers that they are doing, you know, 4 trips. And in the end, they get compromised and we lose lives. It's unnecessary. Have a happy new year. Sarah, new year message?
I wish to, talking of accidents, yes.
No, New Year's message.
Yes, my New Year's message is for Ugandans to be careful on the roads, because the causes of accidents is both structural and behavioral.
Okay.
Reckless driving, please take care, all lives matter. I wish all of you a happy new year.
Dr. Muhumuza, New Year message?
Happy New Year, Ugandans. Let's look into the future with hope and courage, but also let's work towards that.
Honorable Mara?
Happy New Year to fellow countrymen and women. Let us love Uganda. Let's keep the unity of our country. And I think what the senior said, let's stay and remain humble.
Honorable Babu, New Year message?
Happy New Year. And may God give this country the blessing it deserves. May the people of this country go through the next year peacefully and build this country to the levels they want it. May our people have peace in the coming.
Thank you. Honorable Kulaije, Happy New Year message?
Thank you. I command prosperity and peace in every home.
Amen.
In this country, I command stability and progress. And lastly, discipline on everybody in Jesus' name.
Amen. Amen. Thank you very much. Amen. And what a way to end. God bless you all. Have a happy new year, and God bless you all into 2023. We will be back here into the new year. God bless you all.
Thank you.
Join us from Monday to Friday for Good Morning Uganda with me, Felix Mukone, Robert Chirabo,
Molen Kenyana,
Ruben Mpimba, with all the morning's essentials,
including the very latest in news, traffic,
weather and sports.
Hope you'll be setting your alarms, cause we are
looking forward to seeing you then.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Join us from Monday to Friday.
Fellow Ugandans, in this festive season, we thank God for His continued protection and providence. Despite the local and global challenges such as Ebola, COVID-19, increased commodity prices and landslides, the year 2022 has been successful and we have achieved a lot as a country. As individual families, communities, and the country at large, let us reflect where we have come from, where we are, and where we want to be. I appeal to you, fellow Ugandans, to work hard and provide for your families, support and embrace government programs aimed at improving household incomes and livelihoods. Enjoy responsibly. I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year 2023 for God and my country.
Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. Let everyone prepare him room, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and
Yeah, they've been extremely passive. They haven't been working along, in harmony with their mandate. So that's another problem. But that's the only thing. NATO took responsibility for peacekeeping after 1999, according to UN resolution